Hello, everybody. My beautiful IU, thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about the role of ecotherapy or connecting with the earth in depression and healing trauma. And this is not only from my personal experience, which I'll talk about, but also the latest science and research going on in these areas. And I'm going to give you some information about that. So, without further ado, I'd first like to start off with a prayer to Mother Earth. In the Andean cosmology, we refer to Mother Earth as Pachamama. Pachamama. And Pachamama is what the Andeans, the Q'ero culture specifically, honors in the way they live. They do ceremonies too, but they honor Pachamama in everything they do. And they're constantly living in a way of thankfulness, and giving back and sharing, because that's what Pachamama does. She shares her all with us. And in the West, we see a lot more of the destructive habits that actually hurt the earth and hurt us in turn. Um, and in the Andean way of thinking, Pachamama is always there for us no matter what. So we're going to talk about the role of the earth in our healing from trauma and from depression and things like that are related, anxiety and so forth. So I want to say a prayer, and you can join me if you want. Pachamama, thank you for holding us so sweetly. We honor you and pray for the healing of all your children, the stone people, the plant people, the finned, the furred, the hooved, the winged, the creepy crawlers, all of the seen and all of the unseen, all of our relations, all of our brothers and sisters. Thank you, Mother. So, what do I mean by ecotherapy? There's a number of different aspects to it. I'm going to give you both the science and the spirituality, both sides of the equation, hopefully. So, being in the sunlight, connecting your bare skin to the earth, doing activities outdoors, even the way you eat. And eating has been a central theme in these live casts, and I'm going to touch on that as well. But let's start off with the concept of connecting your bare skin to the earth, or earthing. There's a big movement going on. There was a popular movie called Earthing, and there's a reason for that. If you look at cultures that spend a lot of time connected to the earth, there are things that happen in their bodies, ions that they carry, that not only help with blood flow and cleaning the blood and toxins and that kind of thing, but it has an enervating effect, gives energy. And connecting your bare feet to the earth is something that I do. And you look at the cultures that walk around barefoot on the earth, they tend to be, and this is statistically provable, they tend to be healthier, and they tend to have fewer disease conditions, even in cultures that are kind of adjacent to the West, where we live with shoes and we walk around on carpet and wood floors, and we're disconnected from the earth all the time. You think about how a typical Western person lives, somebody who's got a job and a family and responsibilities. We get up in the morning, and what do? We put our slippers on. We walk around the house. We get ready. We go to work. We put our shoes on. We get in a car, right? We get to work. We walk around the office with our shoes on. So we don't really give ourselves a lot of opportunity to be connected to the earth. So that's the importance. That's where ritual comes in. And this is going to be a central theme throughout this talk, is the importance of ritual, not only to the brain, but to our daily lives. There have been experiments that have shown the importance of ritual to the brain, especially our lower brain, our primate brain, and our reptile brain. When we do ceremony, and there are debates about why this is, but it's measurable. When we do ceremony, it's almost like it becomes real. It becomes more serious to the brain. And ceremony can become habit. Habit can become ceremony, both. And the brain picks up the cue that something is going on that I need to pay attention to. And so there's this focusing effect, the focus of intention when we do ceremony, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up in the context of connecting to the earth and earthing is if we don't have the opportunity normally in our daily life, we need to create that opportunity. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Take your shoes off and walk out in your, if you have a yard or there's a patch of ground out in front of your apartment building in the city, or if there's a park that you can go to, and spend time with your bare skin connected to the earth. If you can do it every day, that's ideal, right? And do it for as long as you can. But don't beat yourself up if you can't. Do it as much as you can or as often as you can in any way that you can. And you'll find a lifting of your mood. Now, the spiritual side of this is because, at least my interpretation of the Andean cosmology is there's a synchronization or a harmonization effect when you're connecting to Pachamama. She's lending you her energy and you're honoring her with your energy. So there's an exchange there. And Pachamama's never depressed. She's never anxious. She's always there loving and supporting us. So if you connect to that energy, and I do an exercise in the healing work that I do with people called decoupling, where we go through a process where you're synchronizing your heartbeat with the heartbeat of the earth. And it disconnects the fight or flight response. And it can be incredibly beneficial for people that are suffering from PTSD or depression or anything where, again, the lower part of your brain is locking you into this fight or flight response. To decouple that can be really powerful. I've had experiences where I did a decoupling with someone who, in my judgment, probably was in fight or flight since they were born. And just the release is incredible. And, it's no credit to me. These are ancient techniques, and it's all about connecting with the earth, which is always available, right? Sometimes I'm just lucky enough to be the catalyst that can cause this to happen. But anybody can do this. There's actually a way to do self decoupling, which I'll show you in a future live stream. But today I wanted to stay focused on what and how we can use our connection to the earth to help heal some of these conditions that so many of us suffer with. I mean, how many people take SSRI type drugs? Right? I did for a long time. I took Effexor, and it was in combination with a lot of other medication when I was in chronic pain all the time from a car accident. You've heard me talk about that before. I was in pain for 12 years, and it really limited what I could do. And at my height, I was taking 5 different medications, including Effexor, because when you're in pain all the time, and especially some of these other medications, they tend to strip the serotonin out of your brain. And so that makes you depressed. So the medical way to respond to that is to give you something that elevates your mood, like a SSRI or an Effexor. And it was really difficult to get off of that. You have to titrate yourself, wean yourself off of it over time. If you try to go off of it, cold turkey, which some people do, you can crash and have all kinds of bad things happen. So if you're trying to do that, please don't. Do it slowly and mindfully, just like everything I teach, slow and mindful. Do it in a way that you can sustain the habit. So with earthing, whether you're of a scientific mind exchanging ions with the earth, or you're of a spiritual mind, or maybe both. I tend to look at both because I think all information is good information. And sometimes the integration of the two can be very powerful. We get locked in this concept in our society of duality, like one thing has to be true. I'm of a mind now, where I'm at on my journey, that there's truth everywhere. And as we increase our frequency and we develop our discernment, we have a really powerful truth detector inside of us. All of us do. We can find truth everywhere. Science can be dogma as well. There's a whole new term now called scientism for people that, worship at the altar of science. Just like fundamental thinking in religion, you can worship at the altar of fundamentalist thinking, right? And as soon as you do that on either side, you stop getting new information and you stop learning. So my advice is keep your mind open, keep your heart open, and exercise your discernment. There's nothing wrong with doing your own research, secondary and tertiary research. Find out if somebody you respect says something, that's great. Follow it up, back it up, research it, make sure that it works. And most importantly, if you can, test it. All the stuff I'm telling you in these live streams, I don't expect you to listen to me and hold everything I'm saying as truth. I'm giving you things to try. If this works for you, awesome. I'm so glad. If it doesn't, there'll be something else that comes along, and maybe the thing that you tried will lead you to the thing that works for you, right? So you just have to have that openness and what we say is a beginner's mind. Especially you get to a certain age in life and you learned a few things and maybe you're an expert in your field at work, those kinds of things. It's really easy to slip into a mode where you're not open and you don't have a beginner's mind anymore. And I've been there. I think we all kind of slip into that at some point, but it's a sad way to live, really. It's you kind of lose the wonder. I think Einstein said that if you either believe that everything is a miracle or nothing is. And I've kind of slowly and in a determined fashion moved into a place where I think everything's a miracle. So I invite you to try the earthing however you can and see how that works for you. The other thing I want to talk about is sunlight. Everybody knows that getting some sun is good, but why? It has a lot more to do than with the vitamin D production, which is super important. One of the things that I noticed before I started the Grow New Body program, when I got extensive testing, medical testing, I wanted to have kind of a baseline before I started, and with the weight loss and any other health conditions I had. And my vitamin D was barely measurable on the scale that they use. I think it's 1 to 50 or something. I could be wrong on that. You feel free to correct me, but mine was like 1 or 2. It was like in the basement, right? So after I started to practice not only of ecotherapy, but of eating foods that have light in them, meaning living foods, not dead animal flesh, the more I increased my intake of those kinds of foods, my vitamin D came way up. And in only, I think it was 4 months, I got measured again between not having any and having a healthy level. Within that 4 months, it went all the way up to 14. And I think it's between that and like 20 now. So vitamin D is really necessary for a lot of the processes that go on in your body for you to be healthy. And sunlight, as I said, is actually sunlight hitting your skin creates vitamin D, but also the way you eat creates vitamin D, right? Your body can process it that way. So being in the sun, and we all know the damaging effects of being in the sun. I have light skin, so I tend to sunburn easily. So I'm not talking about staying out in the sun all day if you're not used to it. What I'm talking about is just like with the earth, make a ritual of being in the sun, going from home to car or bus or train to the office and being in the office all day under artificial light. You're not getting much sun. And even when you go outside, maybe you're all dressed up, you've got your suit on, men or women, and you're only getting sun on your face, figure out ways to get sun on more of your body. Sunbathing, maybe not that much sun because that can be damaging. You have to balance it. But sunlight, think about it. That's a way to really get your metabolism going along with the earthing and can be really beneficial. Also, what I've noticed is the side benefit I want to talk about of earthing and being in the sunlight. Find ways to do it in community. And you find people of a similar mindset enjoying the same things that you want to enjoy or you're trying to create a habit to enjoy. I've noticed this incredibly. Walking through the park. My partner and I are starting to lead groups through our local park, Lithia Park, and teaching them mindfulness and teaching them some of these Andean cosmology or shamanic principles. And there's a lot of people that are hungry to learn more about this kind of thing. And at some point, I'm going to be live streaming or at least recording uh, the trips through the park and showing you some highlights of the exercises that you can do. And these are all things that I have incorporated in my program for mind, body, spirit, total transformation, where we go around the medicine wheel. I've talked about that in prior live streams. And I teach you how to use these techniques to not only improve your physical health, but your mental health and make you feel more connected to spirit. So if any of this sounds good to you, I urge you to reach out to me directly through a direct message on Facebook or any of the other platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, or if you're in the shaman circle, you already know how to get a hold of me. You're connected to me all the time, but please reach out and we can just have a discussion. No pressure. I call it a barriers to health discovery session. Long name, but it's really just to explore your story and where you're at and determine if what I do is a good fit for what you need. And like I said, there's no pressure. It's just a conversation. So I urge you to book that if you want to. There's going to be a link after the live stream you can click on to schedule that. So the last thing I wanted to get into is, and I've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but the benefit of doing your normal physical activities, like if you do, a lot of people do yoga, qigong, meditation, things like that. Do it outside. Do it connected to the earth, especially things like yoga, where you're exercising your energy flow. Chinese call it qi, Japanese ki. Everybody's got a name for the same thing: prana, kundalini energy. You're moving the energy in your field when you do these things. Doing it connected to the earth gives it a whole other dimension, and it really boosts the activity of what you're doing. And you see the masters all the time. The people in the park doing tai chi. A lot of times it's older people, right? Keeping their body moving, but they're also keeping their energy moving. And it's just so beneficial. So I recommend, if you're doing one of these practices already, or you're thinking about starting it, think about a little setup that you can do. Again, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated or fancy or, take a lot of time. The key to all these practices is do it in a way that resonates with you, that makes sense to you, that makes you feel good in your heart. It's not something that you have to do, it's something that you get to do. You have the honor of doing it, right? Come at it that way instead of thinking, oh, I got to exercise, I got to eat right, I got to do all these things. Well, if you do that, I guarantee you the habit is going to be a lot harder to create, right? It's a lot easier to come at it from a place of gratitude and honoring. And this body that we have, even though it's not us, or at least it's not all of us, we are a spiritual being having a physical experience. You've heard that term before, I'm sure. I believe that in my soul. But that doesn't mean there's a separation between the spirit and the body. They're quite connected. So the more things that you can do for your physical health and your spiritual health, it affects your mental health, and all these things flow into each other. The analogy that I love that comes from the Andes is, imagine that you're pouring different colors into the same can of paint. All the colors mix together. They start out separate, they mix together. And they're still separate in some way of thinking, right? They're all different colors in the can, but they're in the same can and they're all mixing with each other. So try that one on for size and think about how we can do these practices in a very sustainable way, right? That's what we want to do. We want to create a lifestyle. We don't want to have to do habits. We don't want to have to do practices. That sounds like something I have to do. I want to incorporate these things into my lifestyle in a way that I can sustain and I enjoy, right? Lest I leave out joy. Why not? Why not enjoy it? And listen to your body, listen for the feedback. I talked in previous live streams about the amazing body dialogue method where you get to a place of clarity where your body will actually talk to you. Part of it is just asking and listening and doing it from a place of stillness, like maybe before or after meditation if you're new to it. But you'll get to a point where you can just go within and ask your body anytime, is this beneficial? Should I be doing this? You can also use muscle testing. You can do it with a friend or you can do it yourself. I'm going to show that technique along with the decoupling in a future live stream. These are all things that I teach and things that I do. You don't have to suffer in mystery. You can actually ask your body, is this good for me? And it will tell you. So I really appreciate all of you coming together and watching this live stream. And if you have questions, don't let talking to me directly be a barrier. Come into the shaman circle if you're not in already, and ask the question of the community. We have some amazing people in this community, practitioners that have been doing their modality of healing for years, if not decades. Some of the people in the group are new. They're not a practitioner. They just want to learn more. I welcome all people that want to improve the world by improving themselves, because I got news for you. That's how it works, right? There's so many things outside of us that we can't affect. But when we change ourselves, it's like ripples in a pond. Everyone around us is affected. Even if they're not aware of it, they are. But I see it all the time. People start to make significant changes in their life. It happened to me. So I encourage you to let it happen to you and start in a way that makes sense to you. And one of the things we do in that Barriers to Health discovery session is we talk about that. What makes sense? What's the most important thing that you want to change, right? And we make a plan, if you decide to work with me, to address that first. Now, I have a program that you go through where you learn all kinds of stuff, but the point is that you start with what's the most important to you. So I look forward to seeing you, and thank you all for coming. I know that the way this works on the live stream here is I don't really get interactive people coming on asking questions, and the chat only works on some of the platforms. So I apologize for that. But the chat on Facebook in the Shaman Circle should work during the live stream, and we can look at that in the future. I'm new to doing this kind of technology, not new to teaching. Easy for me to say. I'm not new to teaching, but I'm new to using this technology interactively. So I'll get better and figure more stuff out each time. So I appreciate your time and attention. And I love having you here. And it gives me a lot of joy to be able to bring this information to you. And so with that, I'll close and I will see you next time. And if you do nothing else today, say a little prayer for Pachamama and how she's always there to support us and heal us. And you can always commune with her. It's your divine right. You're connected. We're all part of the same ecosystem. So figure out a way to do that. Figure out a way to ground yourself to her. And I will see you next time. In peace and love, my Ayu. I will talk to you soon.